Kevin Durant has just been traded to the Houston Rockets, an earth-shaking move that marks the 5th stop in his legendary yet turbulent NBA journey. But while the headlines scream blockbuster, the details tell a different story. The Phoenix Suns, once all in on Durant as the final piece to their championship puzzle, have seemingly walked away with scraps, raising serious questions about their long-term vision and short-term desperation. Was this a calculated reset or a catastrophic misstep? Did the Rockets just pull off one of the most lopsided heists in recent NBA memory? And most importantly, can the Suns recover in time to salvage their season, or did they just slam the window shut on their playoff hopes? There is no other way around it. The Phoenix and Durant era didn't go as well, and it was only natural for them to part ways. However, the acquisition was quite costly. Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Cameron Johnson, 4 unprotected first-round picks, and a 2028 pick swap with the Nets. Needless to say, the Suns didn't really think that 2 years after this acquisition, they would have to part ways with Durant and ask for something far less valuable. But here we are, and Durant effectively finessed the Suns in the best way possible. Not only did he join a strong Western Conference contender, making it harder for the Suns to make the playoffs or complete a deep push in the playoffs, but Durant is now also part of a team that could win a championship. Yes, you heard that right. The Rockets finished second in last year's regular season, and while that didn't matter a lot considering the first-round exit from the Warriors, the situation will be vastly different with Kevin Durant on the floor. And the arguments behind this are quite simple. Kevin Durant is still an elite scorer. Despite his age, he can still drop 25 points a game, being the leading scorer of the Suns in the previous season. Yes, he was in the last year of his contract, and at the age of 37, you could argue that teams wouldn't be willing to aggressively chase him given all the other circumstances between him and Phoenix. But still, we're talking about Kevin Durant here, the 8th best scorer in the league, and the man who rebounded from the ACL injury like it never happened. Durant himself is very happy to be part of the current Rockets constellation, and when talking about it, he said, "Being part of the Houston Rockets, I am looking forward to it. Crazy last couple of weeks, but I am glad it's over with. They had a great season last year. Loved their leadership. I felt like I'd be a good addition." So why were the Suns finessed? It's not like they could have done much in the entire situation, to be fair, and what they received for Durant just doesn't feel fair. But if we're being honest, every offer for Kevin would have felt like a robbery for the Suns fans because of how much they gave up for him. However, the Suns already have 2 guards on their team, Beal and Booker, adding another one in Jalen Green, who was already on a questionable contract with the Rockets, and one more in Dillon Brooks is just raising question marks all over the NBA world. Yes, I know the Suns are determined to get rid of Green and bring some draft assets back, but what about the draft picks that they received from the Rockets? Just 1 first-round pick at number, 10 and 5 second-rounders in the following period. What about Houston? Everyone is looking at them as the big winners in this trade because they were able to keep Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, Reed Shepherd, and Cam Whitmore. Adding Durant for all of these young pieces is going to be pivotal to winning a championship sooner rather than later. And keep in mind that now they do not have the troublesome contract of Jalen Green, who was set to earn $105 million over the next 3 years. It's a great trade if you want to give up as little as you can from your future, a bit of a defensive presence in Dillon Brooks, and focus on the win now mentality. The same cannot be said for the Suns, especially after their wishes to get rid of Jalen Green, but it makes the most sense to do so because when you have Beal, Booker, and Green on the same team, then it just makes 0 sense from a point guard's point of view. 3 ball dominant guards who are not ready to pass the ball are not spelling good news for the Suns, so from one problem they have transferred to another one. What can they get in exchange for Green? It's inevitable that the Suns are not done with the trade line. Apart from these 3 guards that I mentioned, we must not forget that Dillon Brooks and Grayson Allen also belong in this category as well. It's more or less a vastly crowded position in Phoenix, and they might be able to trade a couple more players than what they would have originally wanted to. What is interesting to see is that the Suns didn't accept trade offers from the Spurs or the Heat, particularly because these 2 teams weren't interested as aggressively as the Rockets. The Heat were asked to give up a bit too much for Durant, at least for the likes of Pat Riley. According to Shams Charania, the Heat made multiple offers for Durant, but when they were asked to place Jaime Jaquez Jr., Nikola Jokic, Haywood Highsmith, the number 20 pick in this year's draft, and other draft assets in a deal, it was crossing the red line. Obviously, there weren't many teams on the grid who could have gone into war with draft picks like the Rockets and the Spurs. But from this point of view, we might consider both the Heat and the Spurs as the losers in this massive trade apart from the Suns. It's not an everyday opportunity to be able to balance youth and experience at the same time and create a perfect team to contend for the championship. The age of Durant is questionable, and the fact that he wasn't able to win a chip on his own, despite being paired with Irving and Harden in the Nets, might have driven the team a bit off Kevin's service. However, he can contribute on both ends of the floor and is still considered an elite player in the NBA. So the fact that the Heat and the Spurs missed out on having a superstar in their rows goes to show that they weren't ready to win now by giving away a little bit more from their future. So, what's on the table now for the Rockets and the Suns respectively? Nobody is questioning the desperate position in which the Suns found themselves with Kevin Durant, so a trade in which they weren't going to be satisfied with what they received back for the 37-year-old was always going to be the reality. However, the Rockets have turned themselves into a powerhouse with just one trade. Alperen Sengun, Amen Thompson, Fred VanVleet, and Jabari Smith Jr. have all remained intact after the trade, and if you add the presence of Kevin Durant, you could see how big the Rockets are going to look in the following period. On the other hand, the Suns have their hands full of work. It's a very big question mark as to whether or not they can make the playoffs after getting rid of Durant, the top scorer on their team in the previous season. There were many talks that the chemistry in the Suns locker room was fierce after several losses in the previous season, some of them reportedly escalating to throwing punches. Even though Durant denied these allegations heavily by retweeting from his personal X profile, you could never be 100% certain, especially after the meltdown that the team suffered from by not making the playoffs. The Rockets are now a force to be reckoned with, while the Suns have opened a painful chapter in their existence. Beal cannot be traded because of the clause in his contract, and if he continues with the inconsistent performance, he's gonna make it even harder on Matt Ishbia, the owner of the Suns. With all this in mind, what do you think about the upcoming period and the trade that happened between the Suns and the Rockets? And more importantly, have the Suns been fleeced for the services of Durant? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video that appears on your screen right now.